Toby King grew up in the Crystal Castle, which for those Australians sort of in the New Age conscious movement know all about it. It's a beautiful castle that his mother and father have built over the last 35 years. 36 years, there you go. They now have 200,000 visitors a year. Is that correct?
Something like that, give or take.
About there, right, yeah. Massive business, 70 plus staff, grounds, experiences, the largest crystals in the world. We'll talk about a bit of that. The geode crystals, crystal caves, everything. And it's a business that is a part of the conscious awakening of humanity, showing people what's possible. You've got a Tibetan stupa, one of 7 in the world, Kalachakra stupa, recognized by the Dalai Lama. You guys have visited the Dalai Lama. You've got photos with the Dalai Lama. I've seen you when you were a young fella. Anyway, Toby has grown up in a world that the last 35 years in Byron Bay, where the castle is, Byron Shire, it's just like at the forefront of this awakening of consciousness, and you've grown up in that. What was it like growing up in the Crystal Castle? Let's probably start there, in this world of entrepreneurship and conscious awakening at the same time.
Yeah, it's been an interesting time. You talk about it as being on the forefront of awakening or consciousness, but it's interesting because the way it started was just my dad liked crystals. It was really as simple as that. I mean, he was selling crystals out of his backpack. He came up to Byron Bay.
Crazy hippie back in the days.
100%, yeah, 100%. Complete hippie, Osho disciple. Just went up to Byron, went to a Christmas party up there and saw this place and was like, you know what, let's get it. Let's get it.
I remember he maxed out credit cards or something to get the...
Yeah, we don't talk too much about that.
Gotcha. But he found a way.
He found a way.
With a vision.
Crazy hippie with a vision. Found a way to secure the property, and then just started putting crystals in it. And like growing up there, it was mostly just being around crystals. It kind of felt like, I don't know, being around trees. It was just normal. And then leaving for so long. It was interesting because throughout my childhood, I had various rebellious periods where I was like, we all have that. I was like, my dad wears sarongs, I'm going to wear a suit. that was one of them. And then it was, okay, whatever it is. Okay, let's go, let's travel, let's get away from this world of Byron Bay, this whole area. And then coming back, it's like, wow, there's something special. There's something special there. And it's interesting how the only time where I really appreciated it was after a long period of separation.
Yeah, well, that's normal. We all go through that, right?
Yeah.
And you're still young, man. You're 20.
Yeah.
But to be where you're at now, it took me a lot longer to figure out those sort of relationships with my father. Yeah. How is your dad? He's a crazy entrepreneur. I love your parents, by the way. We've spent a lot of time together, obviously, as you know. You guys now know too.
Yeah.
But how is it, having a father and a mother, but I know your dad's very driven in the business in a big way, as this entrepreneur who is bridging, when you say it's full of crystals, we're talking some serious crystals. Like everywhere you go is just the biggest, massive crystals. Yeah. How big are those two geo?
They're 5.5 meters tall.
5.5 meters.
And about people 7 ton, 8 ton each.
7 ton, 8 ton each, right? And when you talk a geode, it's like millions of crystals, thousands of crystals inside this bubble that's formed. They're like a centerpiece. Then these caves, like how old are these crystal caves?
About 200 to 300 million years old.
300 million years old. Now from where?
From Uruguay.
From Uruguay in South America.
Yeah.
And your dad's like, I just have to buy these.
Pretty much.
He won't tell anyone how much he paid, but we know
definitely
they're a lot.
Not. Yeah. There were a few articles written about how he mortgaged the property for them.
Whoa, amazing.
Yeah, but the cave was he went for the 2 geodes. Yeah. And then when he got there, he was looking at the geodes and he turned around and he had brought my sister, who is way more into crystals than I am.
Yeah.
I'm sort of growing on them
gotcha.
Over time, but she loves crystals, and he turned around and he saw her in a cave. And he was like...
Sitting in the cave.
And she said, Dad, we got to get it. So, he didn't even think that he was going to get those caves. And they counted, there's about a bit over 1 million crystals within that one cave.
1 million in one cave?
Yep.
And that's the one you sit in, or the big one?
Oh, that's the big one.
That's the big one, behind the curtains? Yeah, cool. Yeah, that's incredible, that cave. Oh my God, you've got little peek holes that you look through.
Yeah.
Amazing. So he mortgages the property, or so the story goes.
Something like that.
In order to get these massive... So that's how expensive these things are. But the man's just obsessed with crystals. And my understanding of the story with Crystal Castle is your dad was originally wholesaling crystals from there, and then people were coming and sort of buying stuff and like, wow, this place is amazing. It's all in the hills and the forest and his crystals around and set it up nice. And then he realised, hey, there's probably more money in people coming here than in the wholesaling. And then he started to build the castle and the retail side of it. Now you've got the cafe and the experiences and everything.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a house. Like the whole
This is where
building.
you lived, or they lived first before you were born.
They lived in that house before I was born.
Yeah.
And people were coming up. Eventually, people started coming up just to see it, and that's when they they lined the pathways with rose quartz. They went,
Amazing.
All right, now we can start to make something out of the site as opposed to just a normal business.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, it's massive. It's a big deal now.
Yeah.
And a hippie with a vision and a backpack full of crystals.
There are a few of those.
Yeah, well, there is. Well, Steve Jobs is one of them,
Yep.
right? Crazy hippie.
Hippie with a vision.
Hippie with a vision.
Yeah.
Look what he's done.